like make test
Mm-hmm.
your Python stuff. And then if we want to deploy it on live infrastructure, we would trigger different tests, and that's what we write those tests in Go. And so we'd run a little Go script basically that would deploy it on live infrastructure. Basically, there's some nuances on how we deal with that, but we could have it so that in our CI pipeline, it runs like both the local tests, but then also like the live test, basically. And
So
it
when
does
you
that
say
on every single
live
command.
test, this is deploying the smart contract on mainnet and running the test on mainnet?
Well, I don't think we were going to be doing any testing on mainnet in
Yeah,
general, right?
yeah,
So
because that's going to cost gas anyway, right?
it'll cost gas, and also if you deploy a broken smart contract on
You can
mainnet
change
kind
the
of thing.
state also, yeah, that you
Yeah.
don't want.
Yeah. So all of this would be going on one of the test nets, and we can have that configurable on which one and how that actually works, right? It would be like Yodo or whatever it is. But this would basically deploy Terraform, and it would deploy the smart contract on the Terraform and whatever off-chain components you also need on AWS with it, and just it would test it, would
Right.
bring it up, wait for like a health check, and then if the health check comes back right, then it tears down the infrastructure, and so you have like the positive health check, your pipeline passed, and you get the green light.
So I wonder, for the DApps, the DApp's going to have the web component as well, right? So you have the smart contract, the web component. I wonder if it makes sense to, as far as like, let's say integration test is concerned, use something like Selenium, right? And then to exercise the DApp. And then, the CI could run the Selenium scripts as an integration test that'll exercise the web app as well, right? And then when it deploys into mainnet, it's going to deploy the let's say production version of the web the DApp as well, right? The web component of the DApp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
What we have to get with this testing is the full picture. We need to get that end-to-end experience.
Yeah. So hey, Ajay, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So we have some sample examples that in our part of the education series on iControl, where we have some like a simple, let's say, polling application, right, which has the smart contract, it has the web app component, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, Rob, if that could be something you guys can use as, let's say, example web app. It has a smart contract component. It has the web app component, and use in your infrastructure to the Selenium part is not there as yet, but that's probably something we can have our guys take a look at, and then have the Selenium script as well, right? And that maybe that would be a good exercise to get a sense of like what does it mean to package all this DApp together with the smart contract and the web apps.
Yeah, I mean that's sounds all right. I mean my thoughts would be is that we typically want to test the different like tiers of your application individually. Right. So you would have your like web tier that we would use like Selenium on to test like browser interactions, and like really that would be your like full E2E test, really, your acceptance test and everything like that. We would have, but then your front end wouldn't necessarily reside in the same repository as say your smart contract, right?
Yep.
So like, and there's like, a million ways to skin this cat, there are a million ways people are putting these things together. But like, as long as we sort of build patterns that are cognizant of the tier of the infrastructure that we're testing, I'd say like building out unified testing strategies would be huge for that, so having like, some fixtures to be able to support the Selenium acceptance tests and everything like that are, that there's a lot of stuff out there that for us to be able to draw from to be able to build out those
Yep.
patterns.
Yep.
But that would I don't know if that would necessarily even fall under the scope of like a, you know, a Web3 kind of test, you know, where it's like really all that's testing, that's just like a generic, like deploy, you know.
Well, it'll be a Web3 in the sense that, you know, it would actually, you know, use the,
Yeah, it would actually, yeah, you're right.
you know, there'll be a wallet, you'll sign the transaction,
Right.
send it to the blockchain and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're not just testing the front end, you're testing the front end actually interacting with the blockchain.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that case, it absolutely is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just thinking of as far as like the pattern itself, right? Like the Selenium doesn't care about whether or not it's hitting, you know, a web.
Yeah, Selenium is not going to care. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be more of a, let's say, integration test. And then you would have, let's say, even to exercise the smart contract directly, maybe a smart contract unit tests, right? That could run through maybe Jupyter Notebook if it makes sense. Selenium for integration. So there's various small tidbits of tests. And if you, I don't know how familiar you are with the truffle, the project
bit,
scaffolding.
Yeah.
That is kind of that can also guide us, give us some guidance that you know how to manage these projects together. In Truffle, you know, within the same repo, they handle both smart contract as well as your Web3 app, and then you know, so it's a single repo as opposed to a separate repo for a smart contract versus, and that makes it very easy for them to kind of, you know, launch the smart contract, like build a smart, compile the smart contract, deploy it, deploy your web app, test your web app and things like that.
Yeah, if we can maybe like diagram out what those processes are, you know, then we can like start to reassemble what we really need to build to make that process work within the scope of Icon, you know?
Yeah.
It's like individually, there's nothing that they're doing that we can't do as well. It's just about what they've done is they've packaged it all up into a nice package, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we can worry about the packaging later, you know, but we just need to figure out how we can reach parity with the steps that they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, would it make sense to take that as an example, Truffle as an example?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a pretty popular tool, right? So do you guys want us to look into that and give you a sort of a flow of how the Truffle project doing is laid out?
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean,
okay.
We're pretty set right now as far as like what we see as like the next steps with our, you know, the kinds of patterns that we need to support, but like we would definitely could use that because we would draw some inspiration from that and reformulate some of our steps to reach that outcome, you know.
Okay, so so that's more on the higher level project scaffolding, right? And within the individual components, would you like us to give you our you know, that the D app, the polling D app with the smart contract and the web app, and maybe a few Jupyter Notebook scripts to exercise the smart contract?
Yeah, I mean, so that stuff isn't public though, right?
I don't, Ajay, is that public as yet? The event pooling app, repo and all that stuff?
I just checked it's a private one. It's a
Maybe
private
we can make it public.
Yeah.
Does it have Jupyter Notebook?
No, it doesn't have. It was done back 1 year back. So we recently started to do the Jupyter Notebook stuff. So it doesn't have the Jupyter Notebooks. It still uses the TVS one. So we need to write some Jupyter Notebooks there.
Okay. So maybe we can do that in next couple of days, you know, open source, or make that public, Rob.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, like, I figured like we just started working on this Daedric thing, you know, and it's really just because we had the Ansible role already hanging out that we knew we needed to get done. This is kind of something that I'm going to integrate in the standard deployment for people's
Uh-huh.
nodes, so everybody's running a price oracle. But you know, the pattern, it would be great to look at what you're doing early so that we can be really thinking about whatever we're doing there and how it would relate to the pattern that we're trying to support for the Jupyter Notebook testing and whatever else, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, I guess as soon as we see that, then what we should do is we should really just like you said, like map out what Truffle is doing,
Mhm.
and then then we'll do what we're doing here with Daedric or just the general CI pipeline of smart contracts.
Mhm.
And then we should just meet up again like something next week or the week after, something like that, and then try to compare what we're doing exactly, because Kirill's gonna be very far along in 2 weeks from now. I think that would be a great time to sort of revisit what we've done over there and recompare it to the, you know, Ganesh type of or Truffle like workflow.
So
Okay.
can we hear a little bit from Kirill what you're working on, what your interests are?
Like he said before, I'm working on a CI/CD pipeline for deploying a DApp. I was initially thinking about using T-Bears and using T-Bears to test, but after hearing that you guys don't even like to use T-Bears to test, I think that gives me a lot of insight to how I can move forward with that project. But then, but it essentially is going to be a CI/CD pipeline for this Daedric Oracle.
I see.
Okay.
Cool. Great. So
Yeah.
you have experience then doing score coding yourself or interest in that?
No experience until like I met Rob, and then like I started just like messing around, and I did like the sample scores and deployed them to the testnet, but it does seem very interesting.
Cool. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay. Hey, guys, this is BJ. I have a quick question. So regarding the ODI project, the Open Dev Icon project, I guess it's a question for all of us or you. How do we then incorporate all that learning that we are jointly doing and also putting together all the content? How would that fit into the ODI concept? And
So
maybe,
maybe if you could talk a little bit about the templates, I'd be curious about how you're planning on
hey
distributing
Rob,
it.
can you talk a little louder, please? I don't know if it's
Yeah,
me.
sorry.
I'm in Nepal.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be curious to hear what you guys are talking about with the templates, because I think that bridges off from what you're sort of saying is like, how do you actually deliver the the code itself to the end user to like give them their little sandbox playground for them to be able to play with the notebooks and whatnot. Did you guys hear
Well,
that?
yeah, I mean, so far we've just essentially used the notebooks and found them very useful for deploying and managing the scores that we've been developing. You know, if you have to do you deploy and you find a bug and you want to fix it, you know, you go through that cycle, you fix the bug, you redeploy. Did you actually fix it successfully or not? You've got to do it again. And with T-Bears, that can be so time consuming. And with the notebook, it can be really, really quick. So, and then just being able to run through and test everything, not have to type in at the command line for every method you want to call, or you can just run a cell and get the output and do other calculations right there in the notebook as well to check things. It's a work in progress how that'll be packaged up. We have some things that we typically do. So that there's a little bit of code that would be a template that we could share, but then it's going to be fairly unique from one project to another,
Mhm.
you know, what methods you'll be calling and whatnot.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear what you guys are saying on the templating thing, because I do a lot of work with templates, and I'm building a tool right now to kind of make templating things easier. And I'm just thinking, like, with a lot of these templates, you'd render them in some fashion to be able to customize it per some kind of user input of some kind. And in the IPython notebook, I thought that it's like terse code underneath the notebook itself, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
giant blob, right? It's not like a standard Python file that you can just like quickly edit, right?
You could directly edit the notebook as text if you wanted to, and if you look at it, you can read it pretty readily.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, the Jupyter renders it into nice cells and everything.
Right. So yeah, I forgot about that. So there's a notebook, and then there's the Jupyter notebook, and then the Jupyter notebook, you edit through your browser generally, but like it saves it all as like XML or something like that. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the format is offhand, but yeah, it's
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, basically like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, yeah. I mean, when you get to the delivery component, just let's talk about the template then, I guess, because I think really what it's just about getting is the pattern first, and then we can template that out and build that out as like a solution so that developers have like an easy way to start smart contracts and whatnot.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. You give me some thoughts about if somebody wants to develop a smart contract, we could customize the template a bit for them, and you know, not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be releasing this at some point soon. I guess I'll let you guys know when I release the tool, but just check out Cookie Cutter, I guess. Fashioning it off of Cookie Cutter.
Cool.
So, and that's like the number one way people template repositories, basically. So, it's Python. So, yeah. But yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, we still have. Go ahead. Go ahead, BJ.
So Rob, I think this is for Krill maybe. Um, so whatever we're trying to achieve on the ODI side, and also with what you're trying to do, Rob, uh, could especially for us, could Krill start kind of experimenting with some of our concepts and use that as a learning to really put something together where somebody who's trying to build a DApp, uh, and I think that that's what I understand. Krill, you're in the early stages trying to understand T-bears and smart contracts and how to put this all together. Is there some way for us to expose him to some of our stuff and help him and be part of this learning that we can put on ODI?
What kind of concepts are you talking about specifically?
Um, I guess the use of Jupyter Notebook and how we've done it internally, some of that process, and it continues to develop, right? So we could start there.
Yeah, I think I understand what you originally you were looking at, just developing this using T-bears, but if I think you'll, if you haven't worked with Jupyter notebooks before, you'll find them really easy to work with, and there's lots of stuff out there that people have developed for them. So,
So
and then we can give
the
you the
the
template.
the CI pipeline I'm building, like I'm also trying to make it generic enough to encompass like just plugging in other essential apps or other essential methods to deploy apps. So it possibly, like what I'm doing, can be used to integrate with some of the stuff that you're doing, possibly without much alteration to the whole structure of the project.
Yeah, I mean, so like for Kirill to work on stuff though, it has to be open source. generally, because he's got to be able to show it off, and you can't show off your closed source code, you know. So there's going to be that. So as soon as you guys open source the thing, like we mentioned, you know, we can definitely take a look at that then, you know. But you know, just generally as far as like, you know, the IPython notebook thing, I was also just thinking that, like, you know, IPython notebooks, I totally agree. This is like the perfect tool to test smart contracts. It's perfect tool for new developers. It's perfect for development of, you know, and tuning of a smart contract and everything like that. But you're actually going to be deploying the Python itself. So like the Jupyter notebook, do you typically just test command or build the whole smart contract that way, and then you lift it out and you create the smart contract for real that you're going to deploy after that? Like how do you
So
connect the notebook and the deployment?
yeah, so what Icon expects is a zipped folder containing 3 files, and a init file, the actual score code, and package JSON. So you zip that file, and then that's the file that's delivered by the Python SDK with the notebook. So right
So
now, we manually zip up that file. I edit in Atom. I use Atom to edit my Python file, and then I'll just zip that folder, and then I go to the notebook and run the deploy cell.
so maybe is there a potential avenue that we could collaborate where we would make the development process like all in IPython notebooks, and then it zips it up, it copies all of that into a Python file, and then with the associated boilerplate, and zips that up and pushes it up automatically, so that you don't have to copy and paste between these two different files? Because I would feel that that would be like a huge burden in development.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you might in the notebook, you might then be missing some things like linter or whatever, that you have in a in a better editor. But
Yeah. Well,
definitely, the objective would be to smooth out some of the friction there in that process.
yeah, I think that would be the big opportunity with this, because I totally support, you know, this IPython notebook. I think this is a genius idea. That's exactly what needs to be done. But like to actually integrate it with people's development styles and stuff like that, you don't want to force them to develop in one place and then translate to another constantly. You know, it'd be nice if it was all seamless, you know. And so the linters is just like would be a stage, and like you copy over lint, you know, do package JSON, do the init, and then deploy. That could all just be like a little pipeline in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Could be an opportunity there. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely would like to limit the amount of changes between, whatever OS and zipping and editor and notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, let me think about that. That could be something that I could help with as well. Building like a mini little local code pipeline, basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, that could be cool. We can potentially help there, but yeah. I mean, really, to me, it's like these patterns are the hardest part. You get the pattern right, and then you can change parameters, and you can apply it wherever, you know. And yeah, it's still just a little early on figuring out the pattern. Kirill's only been working on this for a couple weeks now, you know, so still got some time to kind of have that pattern fleshed out and everything. But
cool. Well, definitely, Kirill, let us know what you need, and we're happy to share. So
Sounds very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So Rob, regarding open source, you said Krill needs to be involved in or this has to be open source. We are thinking open source, but we're trying to figure out what to open source. So if you guys want to be involved at that level, that's what my request was, to figure out, okay, we have all this process in place, and what do we continue to make over open source, uh,
mhm.
and get the community involved, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable necessarily telling you what things to open source because that's pretty proprietary stuff, I'm sure, of yours,
Mm-hmm.
But like I can tell you the types of patterns that I'm looking for. I'm generally looking for people that need off-chain infrastructure, databases, message queues, things like that, and how they interact with the big picture, you know. Um, so yeah, that's the main thing, really.
Cool. Yeah. Krill, are you are
Now,
you in the Bay Area too?
No, I live in New York City.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. I think I
yeah,
missed the early part. So, Krill, are you with Rob with the same organization, or how are you?
Yes, I am. I'm actually a fellow for his
Oh, okay.
organization, so I'm going through the program right now.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Great.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, Rob, I'm in Nepal right now, so
I am.
you guys
Oh,
stay
cool.
safe out there.
Yeah, things are crazy right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, a couple nights ago was a really crazy night in the Bay Area, just like looting all over the place. Like the cops were it was absolute insanity. They imposed a curfew at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. to make everybody go home and everything like that. It's just been nuts.
I don't know if you heard, but you know Scott Smiley, right, from ICX Station.
Uh-huh.
He was saying on Sunday he went out to participate in the protest, and they were at the freeway entrance, and they said the crowd was saying, "All white people to the front! All white people to the front!" And he said he ended up face to face with the cops at the front of the protest.
White people.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess,
It's nuts.
Dan, in these protests, white people are valuable.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
no, they're more like the shield.
yeah, they're
That
the
happened in a
shield.
couple of places. So there's the there's a layer of white people in the front between the police and the blacks. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What a
Yeah.
crazy world, man, we live in now.
It's,
Cool. Yeah, we're very excited to have you guys and work with you guys together in all these projects. The idea again is to share with the larger community and draw
yeah.
in more developers into the
Hmm.
ecosystem, especially the Python developers. Make it easy for them. So that was kind of our pitch to Icon, saying, look, we need this platform if we want to hit this larger Python developer community, right?
Hmm.
So that's where we are, and we actually have a meeting planned for next Saturday. If you guys want to join, or we have kind of a joint agenda on the testing side for that meeting, I'd be happy to kind of engage in that endeavor. Like, what do we present at that meeting to draw a larger audience in this effort of testing? Um,
Yeah, I mean,
What that is, Rob, is are you familiar with Corey from Ubik Capital?
yeah, I know.
He does the podcast, so we've scheduled a podcast with him to talk about this
Uh-huh.
project, and it's going to be multiple people joining, different perspectives, and
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I really want Kirill to just have like a really good project and to make a good contribution that the rest of the community can gain
mhm.
from and everything like that. And so I feel like as soon as we make some progress on the CI pipeline and actually, testing the smart contract that way, we're really just, we can use something as simple as the reference implementation. There's like the multi-sig wallet and the DEX and all that. That's what we were initially looking at. And they got some unit tests and stuff like that in there. And once we get the pattern out, like I think that it's going to take about 10% the time to replicate it on another. I mean, if my experience has served me correctly as far as how these kinds of patterns get sort of scaled out and everything like that, I'll be like 10% the time. So I think that we should just need to stay focused, like on specifically just getting the pattern there, on something like that's maybe not overly complex. That's a really simplified sandbox or whatnot. And then from there, that's exactly when we would want to talk about like the templates, we definitely, as soon as you get the iPod on notebook up, we can take a look at that as well and integrate it with that, but we fully expect that whatever pattern that we come up with, it might take a couple iterations on that. So that's why I don't want to like roll out the pattern too quick, but once we settle out on that, it'll be a couple of weeks from now, it'll definitely be something that we just do a pull request on your iPython notebook and just integrate it that way,
Cool. Yeah, sounds great.
Hey Rob, just as a feedback, that your voice is still very low. I don't know, Dan, is it loud enough for you?
Yeah, it's fine for me. Your voice sounds a little on the loud side, BJ.
Yeah, probably. It's probably my connection in Nepal. Could be.
Maybe.
And it's raining outside, and I can hear the rain. You guys are probably hearing it too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Kirill, I would love to link up with you on LinkedIn or something, and and keep you in the loop about the next week, the Saturday event, Rob. If you
with Corey.
With Corey, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be just cranking away on this, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward mostly to kind of like, the pull request time, that's where it's going to start to get interesting.
Okay, sure. And we do have a Telegram group. Do you mind? And it's up to you how much to participate, but we'd be happy to just invite you there, so that you guys have a understanding of where the conversation is going in that group. That'd be okay?
Sure. Sure.
Okay. Cool.
All right. I just had one more question. Are you guys running your smart contracts on Kubernetes, or not the smart contracts, but are you guys running off-chain infrastructure on Kubernetes, or are you guys doing things with VMs?
No Kubernetes.
Yeah, we're not using Kubernetes as yet.
Okay.
Rob?
All right.
Not for the icon related stuff.
So like, I mean, the only really last question that I asked this is that we're fleshing out a pattern with deploying smart contracts and related off-chain infrastructure. Well, the related off-chain infrastructure from Ansible. So that might be a pattern that you guys could benefit from.
Yeah, sure. We'd love to.
That would be great.
Cool. All right, cool. Well, I guess we'll just we'll talk soon. I guess we should meet up in 2 weeks from now. I would say should be at least the at the latest next touch point, really, and we'll present some of the work that we've done, and we can talk about ways to integrate at that point. But you'll have the IPython notebook public, right, at that point?
Yeah, it should be pretty soon.
Okay. Cool. We'll just be looking out for that. And as soon as we see that, then I'll take a couple days to marinate on what's going on there, just run it ourselves, and then, talk about PRs right afterwards.
Great. All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Good to meet you,
great talking to
Kirill.
you guys. Yeah.
Great to meet you too.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Rob.
Oh.
Yeah, nice to meet all of you.
Bye, guys.